So I'm now going to hand over to Sedge, and over to you.
Thank you. Hello, I am Sedge. I am an advisor, a consultant, and once upon a time, I founded an influencer agency called Scene Connects. But we are obviously not here to talk about me. We are here to talk about sport, and in particular, the summer of sport. We are well and truly in the thick of it, from Wimbledon, the Euros, which Hayden could tell us all about, because I don't think he's missed a game in real life yet. He's a bit hungover. We've got Tour de France, Paralympics, Paris Olympics, and the way that we have consumed sport has changed, and the way that we can access athletes has changed. So I wanted to get under the skin with these guys about what all of that means and what that looks like for this summer and how brands can capitalize on those moments. So first off, introduce yourselves. Tell us what you do.
Hi, afternoon. I'm Ben McLaughlin. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Boxpark. And obviously we're in the middle of quite a big sporting occasion at the moment, which is a little bit busy for us. But we're very excited to be here today to talk about it.
What's busier, this or Taylor Swift?
Both present very different challenges, but we'll talk about sport today and save Taylor Swift for another day.
Hello everyone, I'm Ellie Cross. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager at Starling Bank, and I predominantly head up all things women's sport. I didn't really know much about women's sport until 2022, and we sponsored the Women's Euros, and I'd like to think I'm a supercharged fan now. I did grow up in a Peterborough United household, but I'm more about the women now, less about the men.
I'm Hayden, Clotty. I'm the head of sport at Alpha Talent Group, but also a talent manager. I look after athletes and sport-aligned content creators, which is mainly football at the moment, which has been very busy with the Euros, so excuse my voice. I've just got back from Germany, so if I sound a bit rough, that's why.
Yeah, we've got a rough panel. We've got some Glastonbury goers, some Euros goers. But I am a massive Man City fan, and Hayden is a United fan. So I just wanted to rub it in slightly and go back and talk about... He used to sit opposite me for quite a few years, so it was quite good fun, because we might have won 4 times. But going back to City winning the league 4 times.
Had to get it in there, didn't you?
But one of the things that I found so interesting was, so actually Gen Z, 50% of Gen Z have not been to a live sporting game, but they are following clubs, they are following athletes, they are engaging in sport, but they are engaging in sport through social, they are engaging in sport through following athletes. And one of the things I found so interesting about City's win is that they got 270 million organic views, no paid whatsoever, through their reactive moments post-win. So you've got Jack Grealish trying to open a flare, and it's not going well for him. So it shows like the reactive, the timeliness, but also like the club not taking themselves too seriously and giving people and fans this access that you didn't have previously. So I wanted to start with you, Ellie, and talk about, Starling has obviously got such a close association to women's football. You talk about women's football non-stop, maybe a little bit less than Nancy, who was in the audience. But talk to me about why Starling has associated themselves to women's football and the impact that that has across social.
Yeah, definitely. So for anyone unaware, Starling Bank is the only bank in the UK founded by a woman. So one of the ways that we sort of help resonate with gender equality and sort of bring it to life is through our work within women's sport. For us, it's less about the on-the-pitch action, it's more about off-the-pitch action. I think everyone in this room will know the Lionesses are currently national treasures, but I think the pace that that's happened is phenomenal. I think before 2022 you might have been able to name Rachel Yankee or Jill Scott, but hopefully now you can name at least 5 out of 11 of the Lionesses. And I think the power of social has really driven that. I don't know if anyone here watches The Overlap. Put your hand up if you watch The Overlap. Yeah, okay, there's quite a few. And I think the beauty of The Overlap is how someone like Jill Scott is able to join a YouTube podcast basically, and we're able to raise the profile of women in sport in such a powerful and positive way. So I think that's really definitely playing into the pace of what's happening within women's sport. But I think the main beauty of it all is the athletes within women's football particularly. They're real people, and I think given, again, the speed that everything's running at, none of them are in big, scary commercial deals yet. If you look at their Instagrams, their YouTubes, their TikToks, it's so organic and you get to know them. So last week on Starling Bank's Instagram channel, we launched 2 Never Have I Ever Reels. And some of the content we've put out in the last 3 weeks has been the highest performing posts across Starling Bank's channels in 2 years. And that's unscripted content of Jill Scott and Beth Mead playing Never Have I Ever. And they both said David Beckham was their celebrity crush off the cuff. I mean, you can't write that. That is like where the money is. So I think definitely the authenticity and the realness of this talent is what's sort of helping supercharge the sport.
And then let's talk about Boxpark. The affinity to Boxpark and to football, and obviously with Wembley in particular. You've got that 90 minutes, but what's the strategy behind football and Wembley and engaging that audience, entertaining that audience pre-post game?
I think the point that you said at the start around the Jack Grealish celebration, Man City moment has got a much bigger uplift than winning the league, because no one really cares about City winning the league.
Yeah.
Sorry. But
it's a lie.
But that's sort of very much the strategy is, yes, people are with us to either watch the football if it's the Euros, or they might be going to Wembley Stadium and coming to us pre or post. And really is, all of our focus is what are we doing outside of those 90 minutes. Yes, the 90 minutes are great, but lots of the bulk of all of our moments and all of our great marketing experience has been through content we're delivering pre-game, post-game, moments on, whether it's Barry from EastEnders, our infamous talisman of the Euros campaign, singing Sweet Caroline on stage.
Allowed to talk about
Sorry.
Barry from EastEnders.
Barry is coming out in a bit afterwards. I'm kidding them. But those are the moments, and really is engaging with the fans, because actually it's about bringing them together. It's creating those moments for people to be together, to celebrate, not just watching the game. There's so much more around it, both pre and post, and in the lead up to it, that really matters to us. So we're trying to create whatever can be something that is going to give you a special, memorable visit that's not just related to the sport. So it could be the worst football game in the world, but you could still have a memorable day because X, Y, or Z happened. You saw so-and-so perform, you're with your friends from school that you haven't seen for 20 years, and you celebrated or commiserated together that day. That's what we're trying to create within there, and talk. That narrative is around bringing people together and giving them something on top of what already is a great moment, I think.
Yeah. And then from an athlete's perspective, like how do they tap into those fandoms, keep them engaged, keep building up their communities?
I think the most important thing is now athletes are becoming content creators in their own right, especially more to like your point about women in football. Like, they want to grow the sport. They see what these guys and girls are doing on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, and they go, I want a piece of that. Because ultimately, being an athlete, it's a finite career. It could end when you're 30, it could end when you're even younger. Especially for like women in football, like we've been lucky enough to do a lot of campaigns and a lot of work with people like Jill Scott, Mary Earps, and they've seen the game come from here to like here after the Lionesses won it. So they're all for growing the game. So I think seeing that kind of proximity to the athletes kind of allows people to kind of get involved in the sport from different angles. And I think if you take football as an example as well, it's becoming so expensive to go and watch football with the subscriptions and all of the rest of it. So people in the Gen Z bracket need alternative ways to kind of get into the sport. So whether that's through fashion, whether that's through creators, through music, there are so many different ways to get involved, and it's really exciting. I think one of the most important ones in recent years is Netflix with Drive to Survive, and with I think Matchpoint, and I think the rugby has one as well. And God, the scramble for brands to kind of want to tap into that, where especially with the Formula One, it's like nothing I've ever seen before, and it's great, but you can't cheat that with authentic fans of a sport. You need to kind of do that steadily, and obviously there needs to be a strategy involved in it, otherwise people will see that you're trying to kind of piggyback on a trend. So it's great, it's good that there are more eyes on it, but I think consistency and kind of factoring that into your plan is really good. I mean, I knew nothing about F1 really when I started working in it, so I had to panic and kind of do my research, because if you're working with people in it, you need to really immerse yourself in it, because these are guys and girls that live and breathe the sport, so it's good to do it properly, I think.
I think just on that point of getting the ambassadors and the athletes to tap into other areas beyond the game they're playing is really important. So it was great to see. I don't know if anyone saw that Liam Williamson has just partnered with, I want to say F1 or Aston Martin yesterday, and I think you can now start to see these lionesses like being the face of other brands in other sectors, because if they retire at 35, they need that backup plan. So I think that's really
important. Did you see her at Glastonbury as well?
I didn't see her at Glastonbury, but I saw the content.
We're going to talk about female athletes a little bit more, because it's one of the most exciting things that I think is happening in the wider economy, from a creator perspective, athlete perspective, because we're such a rise. So if you look at the figures, women's basketball is up 49% year on year. Women's football viewership is up 45% year on year, and I want to get this stat right, but according to FIFA, 29 million women and girls currently participate in football globally, and that is predicted to double by the end of 2026. So everything that is happening with the Lionesses, that's happening across the world, is having such a momentum impact. And we've got some phenomenal athletes from like Simone Biles, you've got Caitlin Clark, you've got like this whole wealth of like really amazing storytellers that you can follow their journey and really be part of that narrative and kind of see them succeed. But again, to your point, Hayden, it's not like the immediacy of that 90 minutes or on the whilst they're racing, it's like what is their career and what's that longevity and how do you kind of stick with them throughout. So I guess like what have you seen being at the heart of all things women in sport? Have you seen that change? Have you seen the momentum and the pace happen?
I think, to be honest, I think what's happened recently is the women have got a voice. So you take Mary Earps last summer. I don't know what Nike and the FA were doing, but where was that shirt? She campaigned, everyone got behind it, and then they got it in stores and it sold out. They've now got a voice to campaign and be at the forefront. I mean, the day after they won the Women's Euros, they did the letter to Liz Truss. And you have got more girls playing PE, but we launched at Starling a campaign called Kick On with Starling in Feb 22, 23. And we've done 3 sort of activations of it, and the most recent one was campaigning for pitch access. So shout out Vicky Park Rangers. They got kicked off their pitch last summer and it made headlines with The Guardian. So we've created a pitch pack where any team, women and girls team across the country, can find out how you can contact your local MP to fight for your pitch access. And when I say pitch access, this is five-a-side, grassroots, Sunday league pitches, which are effectively being given to men as priority, just because that's the way it's always been. And effectively, Jill and Beth Mead were fronting our campaign, and they believed in it because the exact same thing had happened to them. And so for these little girls we worked with, this is like making their dreams. This is inspiring a whole nation, basically, to fight for what they believe in. But what I would say is, it's amazing how far women's sport has come, but we're so nowhere near the end of it yet. And I think we need to remember what's going on with like Enya Luco and Joey Barton, and there's so much more to do. So I think it's inspiring, but got to keep campaigning.
Yeah, of course. And then I guess from a talent management perspective, you obviously see a ton of briefs land on your desk from men, female athletes, male and female athletes. Like, how do you see from like a pay gap? How do you fight for your female athletes to make sure that they get the right airtime, coverage, and fee that they should get?
God, I mean, I look back to just before the Women's Euros when England won it. I mean, I was pleading with brands. I was like, it's in England, it's in our country, like, there's an opportunity for you to really kind of get behind the team at the start of their journey rather than kind of try and tack onto it at the end. And people were very tentative about it, and obviously you'll know better than I do. Now that they've obviously had success, the men's team haven't been able to replicate it. People are really like trying to, you see the Lionesses popping up here, there and everywhere, which is great. So I think, more to your point, I think historical bias comes into it a lot when it comes to rates of women working sport, whether that's athletes, whether that's content creators. I think I saw a stat recently where, you know, WSL players can get paid salaries of like £27,000 a year. When you look at that compared to what an average Premier League footballer gets, a massive, massive disparity.
Yeah, of course.
When it comes to briefs, I think the most important thing I have in terms of what I say to brands is, why are you looking to work with a creator or an athlete? Because unfortunately a lot of them are box ticking exercises. They might say, right, we need a guy and we need a girl. That's fine if that's what you want to do, but just be honest about it. Because if you actually genuinely want to work in, whether it's women's football or women's basketball or women's golf, if you're going to do it properly. Like, really have a bit of a mission behind it. Because a lot of these young women that I work with, shout out to Nancy in the crowd, they really, really care about their sport, and not just that one sport, like women's sport as a whole. They want it to be successful, and it goes more onto the point I was talking about earlier with the athletes themselves. It's such a close community, they just want it to do well. So when I'm working with a brand and it's kind of like, we want to work with a female athlete or a female creator, you kind of go, okay, like, explain it to me, because I can give you all of the data, I can give you the, you know, taking Nancy as an example, like, she knows a lot of the Lionesses, like, there's so much value in that. So obviously for a brand, if you've got 5 minutes with Mary Earps, how can you get the best out of those 5 minutes? Do you want to hire someone that's on the periphery of women's football, or do you want to hire someone that's properly like in the thick of it, that's going to get you the most out of it? And when it comes to rates as well, obviously, like, we kind of curate our rates based on engagement. Obviously following does come into it, but I think you have to almost forego the vanity metrics to an extent when you're looking at a really solid audience. So someone that's got 20,000 followers on TikTok might objectively not see much, but they are there for a thing. They are there for women's football or whatever it might be. So when I get someone that goes, oh, you know, we would only pay someone that has this amount of followers this, I go, like, come on, it's like, really think about what it is that you're doing, and obviously it goes into longevity as well. So there's still a lot of work to be done, I think. I mean, I myself am always very keen to understand the brief and obviously kind of get under the skin of it and understand what the objective of it is, especially when it comes to working with women in sport, because I get questions from the talent that I manage as to how is this going to look for me? You know, I want to work with them long term. So yeah, a lot to learn, but we're getting there, I think.
Do you not think as well, I think finding the personalities and the niches of talent is really important. So like Lauren Hemp and Lego have done a really good job. So if anyone followed Lauren Hemp during the World Cup and the Women's Euros, she's really into Lego to help, I guess, have cool-off time between games and stuff. So they've got like a long-term partnership now, and I guess with Leah Williamson going into fashion, she's really stylish. You can tap into like, if it feels authentic, it's going to tap into it.
It comes up all the time. Like I try and build like a bit of a dossier on everyone that I manage, just really like anecdotal tidbits that they might say about like a game that they played or a place that they've been or someone that they look up to. So you can kind of formulate a bit of a pitch to brands that say, right, okay, not only can they do this, but like they really care about this as well. And I think it's that sort of fine margin as well that unlocks a lot of briefs that you wouldn't think are necessarily there.
I have been given a 2-minute warning and I'm only halfway through my questions. So we're all gobshites. But Ben, just like leave us with, like, how have you seen the impact change in terms of football, viewership, attendees to Boxpark with the lens from female sport?
Luckily, I speak really fast, so we can get through this in no time.
I
think the key part is we've got to put a commitment together that we are all going to continue on that journey, because it's not around, there's not a silver bullet, there's not a one quick fix that's going to help change those pieces through. But you know, we committed that saying we will make the Women's World Cup as big as the Men's World Cup, we'll make the Women's Euros as big as Women's Euros, and football's obviously probably the most prolific piece of that, but we've got to follow that through the layers. But by us supporting it means that we're early adopters of doing a big tournament with Women's World Cup, driving that through, which then means that sponsors want to come on board for what we are doing, which helps to widen that conversation. So very similar to you guys supporting them as a campaign. We had various different advertisers come and support through us for the women's game as much as the men's game, if not more, to be honest, because people want to be in that space. So we commit to doing that part, which commits to that part, which drives the revenues, which ultimately will go back to your point around adding the value back and being able to increase the paid part of the sport. It's definitely leaning into it. We play in like a sort of an annual hospitality tournament, which is supposed to be mixed gender tournament, very focused on there has to be both male and female on the pitch at all times to make sure that, you know, it's really sort of inclusive tournament. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it was, you know, you would go there and there'd be one poor girl stuck on the pitch for the whole time. This year we played in the tournament, there were more women than there were men playing in the tournament, and that says there's a shift, and we as hospitality businesses have got to lean into that shift and help support it, so that we can help support the talent. When we're trying to book talent for a Euro screening, we're trying to get a mix of different people. Is it legends? Is it current? You know, is it mixed different backgrounds, different genres? You know, we want to lean into that. I think everyone has a commitment to supporting, driving all of the different sporting agendas, so that we can all sort of dial in together.
Yeah. I'm going to give these guys a grilling, and I will post on my LinkedIn all the answers to the rest of the questions. But for now, I can see you. I know. But huge thank you to our panelists. You've been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry it's such a tight, it goes so quickly, doesn't it? Thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Thank you so much.